Hey YouTube. Y'all, please excuse me today. I'm just having one of those weeks. Seems like one of those lives, okay? But just thinking about this all weekend, so we're gonna dig back into it. This is for educational purposes only. I am sharing this information under the FAIR Act, and this is a documentary that I found on Super Pop Contest. No. Why? That's neither here nor there. Thank you for this YouTube author for putting out the information, so to speak. Now, again, this is protected up under the FAIR Act. And I'm gonna just start off where it left off. I'm gonna hide myself again.
Homes, shine parlors. That's where everybody just hung out. People go down one side of Greenwood and up the other. You could see the fashions and all of that. During this era, Tulsa is essentially two cities, the black North End and the white South End. And that was segregation days, you know. So we didn't go very far to the south. We just worked over there, that's about all.
The black people couldn't get anything in Tulsa, downtown. They couldn't go to the restroom. They couldn't eat. It was entirely segregated.
But far from stifling African American economic success, this segregation helps Greenwood grow.
I think the success based on segregation has to do with simple economic principles of supply and demand. There's a demand for goods. One cannot purchase those goods in the larger context of the white community. So there's a need for black individuals to produce and to supply those goods.
Despite the success blacks have in creating their own community, Tulsa is still a white-dominated society.
White policemen could come into the community at any point and arrest anyone. Most of the wage earners in Black Tulsa had white bosses. So Black Tulsa, while it boomed and had a measure of independence, was also under the thumb of white Tulsa's political...
Pharaoh, who you talking to?
Many African American communities in the United States were thriving in the 1910s and 20s.
Pharaoh!
But the high level of home ownership in Greenwood made Tulsa's black district...
Who are you and not talking to?
Now, for some white people, a black person with any wealth, then as well as today, is something that created jealousy.
Race relations in Tulsa were poor in the early 1900s. The KKK had an enormous presence in Oklahoma and in Tulsa particularly.
This era would see the racist roots of segregation
Get out.
into numerous armed conflicts throughout the United States.
The Tulsa Race Riot of 1921 it really is set against a backdrop of a multitude of race riots in America. 1919 was known as Red Summer because literally blood was flowing in the streets. There were over 25 major race riots in 1919 in America.
These riots occur in Minnesota, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, and elsewhere throughout the country.
Now, my only question and what I'm thinking about now is, were we pushed into that area because they knew that the KKK had a big presence in Oklahoma back then? Did they know that that would result eventually in more deaths, so to speak, directly or indirectly? The questions keep coming, and I am trying just to stay neutral in my emotions. And to be honest, y'all, I haven't did a whole lot of follow-up into this stuff because it brings me to tears, because it makes me very frustrated. I can't imagine any group of people being that evil. And then here we are, the documentation, the proof, everything that we're finding out now, the narrative, it just gets deeper and deeper. And now in 2016, you know, people are being hung in. That's history repeating itself. And That's why. Those are reasons enough to want to separate. I want to go back into this. This is for educational purposes only, and it's protected under the Fair Use Act.
The worst riot during the summer of 1919 is in Chicago, which leaves 38 people dead and 1,000 black families homeless.
The important thing to remember about race riots during this period is that they are characterized by whites invading black communities. These are not black communities that are erupting. These are white citizens, sometimes aided by the police, who are en masse invading black communities, attacking black businesses, and attacking black homes.
In 1921, the fires of racial intolerance spread to Tulsa. The person who serves as the spark for Tulsa's riot is Dick Rowland. A 19-year-old black man, Rowland dropped out of Booker T. Washington High School so he could earn some money shining shoes in downtown Tulsa.
While some kids stayed in high school and went ahead and graduated, there was also a great desire by many others to go out and make some money. And you could make money in Tulsa. Even if a boot black could shine in Royal Man's shoes and might get a tip of $1 or $5. That was incredible money in 1920, 1921. So to drop out of school was not all that unusual.
He worked downtown, and during that era, the era of the riot, 1921, there was really only one restroom that was readily accessible to African Americans, and it was on an upper floor of a downtown building called the Drexel Building.
The elevator operator at the Drexel Building is a young white woman named Sarah Page.
On the morning of May 30th, 1921, as he often did, Dick Rowland went into the Drexel Building, got onto the elevator to go and use the restroom. But something happened on the elevator. I'm not exactly sure what did, but what probably happened is that as he stepped onto the elevator, he tripped and fell into Sarah Page.
To this day, no one knows for certain what happened when those elevator doors closed. But what is known is that shortly after entering the elevator, Dick Rowland was seen running out, leaving behind a screaming Sarah Page. Tuesday, May 31st, 1921.
And we're going to stop there right there and say alleged, because we know how there are certain groups that have proven and shown time and time again in history. Y'all should see my facial expression. They're women accusing our men of rape or attack, and then later finding out they were all lies. So we don't know her. We don't know the narrator. This alleged incidents. Okay, just want to put that out there.
One day after Dick Rowland allegedly assaults Sarah Page on an elevator in downtown Tulsa, the police arrest Rowland and take him to the jail on the top floor of the courthouse. The incident becomes the talk of Tulsa.
As the story went around that he had touched her, hit her, knocked her to the ground, and it escalated and became more inflammatory with each telling.
Ultimately, things just steamed totally out of control.
Look how
a large
comfortable
player in all this
they
was
are.
the Tulsa Tribune, one of the major papers
Waiting.
in town. The Tulsa Tribune ran a story titled "Nab Negro for Attacking Girl in Elevator."
This inflammatory article strongly implies that Dick Rowland, a black man, had raped the young white elevator operator, Sarah Page. 3:15 p.m. The newspaper hits the streets of Tulsa. Over the next 17 hours, the city will be consumed by a race riot on a scale never before seen in America.
By about 4 o'clock, you start to have a crowd of whites gathering in front of the courthouse, the downtown courthouse, where Dick Rowland was held. Over the next couple of hours, that crowd grows in size from 100 to 200 to 300 to 400 people.
8:20 p.m. Tulsa's Sheriff Willard McCullough orders a group of armed whites out of the courthouse. When his instructions for the crowd to disperse are ignored, McCullough takes precautions to protect Dick Rowland.
He guards all of the stairways leading up to the top floor of the jail. He also disconnects the elevator going on and posted armed guards up to where Dick Rowland was held.
9:15 p.m. False reports that the courthouse is being stormed by the white mob reach Greenwood, where the community is gathering to discuss what action they should take.
African American men in Tulsa decided that it was time to take a stand, that lynching a 19-year-old black man for an alleged assault was going too far.
Okay, and let's pay attention to the cheekbones. Let's pay attention to the fact they say rumors reached Greenwood that they were allegedly storming. They were storming when a number rises from 1 to 400 people, and they're all angry and waving guns and, talking violently. It's kind of like a storm. Yeah, all right.
Immediately, a group of armed African Americans, including World War I veterans, rushed to the courthouse and offered to help defend the jail. Assured by the sheriff that Rowland would be safe, the men returned to Greenwood. The white mob, however, remains.
That might have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. After seeing this initial group of blacks, whites then started to arm themselves much more so than they had.
10:30 p.m. The white mob swells to about 2,000. Once again, word reaches Greenwood that a lynching is imminent. A group of armed blacks returns to the courthouse. Again, they are turned away.
But as they were walking back to their cars, a white came up to a black vet and said, "Where are you going with that gun, nigger?" And the black vet said, "I'm going to use it if I have to." And the white man said, "No, you ain't." A tussle started off, a shot was fired, and the race riot was over.
The situation in Tulsa quickly spirals out of control.
After those first shots were fired, at that point, the white rioters forgot about Dick Rowland entirely, and they were out to get all blacks for what they perceived as crimes against whites by blacks.
During the rest of the night, small excursions by whites into the district are repelled, but the residents of Greenwood will not be able to hold them off for long.
Once the sun was up and the mass invasion of Greenwood happened, whites would typically come in. They would be fighting gun battles with blacks who were defending their homes and businesses before being overwhelmed.
When the riot starts, many police officers abandon their duties. They side with the white rioters, deputizing many of them and detaining as many blacks as possible.
Black men were rounded up and taken to detention centers on the notion that that would be for their protection. But what that did was essentially to leave the black community defenseless.
We're taking you down, boy. We're taking you down. Let's go.
Anybody who was white could arrest, detain, anything to anybody who was black and get by with it. And in fact, they were encouraged to do so.
I remember men taking my father to a place where they kept prisoners at 11th and Elgin, McNulty Park. Other than that, I never saw my father anymore during the race ride. I just remember my mother taking care of us.
No.
The early morning hours of June 1st, 1921. Most members of the community in detention centers. Their homes and businesses are looted and burned.
I will always remember 4 men coming in our house with torches, and my mother saw them coming, and she put the 4 of we children under the bed, and from under the bed we could see them walking to the curtains and setting fire to the curtains to set our house on fire.
We start hearing shots, and my grandfather was told us all to get up, and we got up and we could see smoke and hear shots, and we couldn't sleep or anything.